Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight's conversation is going to focus on youth entrepreneurship in Rwanda and the life cycles of startups in this country. We're going to explore some of the reasons for SMEs that succeed and why some fail, and look at the economic landscape for these organizations. Joining this very interesting conversation, we are joined on my immediate right is Isaac Mhusi, who is the CEO of Success Through Perspective. Isaac, thank you very much for joining the show.
It's a pleasure.
We are also joined by Grace Mugabe-Kazi, who is the advisor to the Minister from the Ministry of Youth. Grace, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
As always, my name is Dana Mpisi. I'm the host of The Square, and I'm joined by my resident panelist, Ephraim Ranmenje. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Charles Haber, good to have you.
Same here, Dana. How are you?
Good.
Good.
The show is made up also of Berna Namata, who's a resident panelist, but unfortunately she couldn't be here this evening, and I hope we'll hear from her from wherever she is. So before we kick off, as we always do, are we going to have a midweek recap? Ephraim, I'll start with you.
Definitely. I think I'd want to talk about the education sector in Rwanda and mention the launch of the satellite that's going to happen tonight, actually. It's going to be streamed live on RBA. I think this is a few minutes to midnight. And the whole point of the satellite going up is to increase broadband connectivity in schools, which shows also at least shows the reforms that are happening in the education sector. So it's I mean, also there's national pride around the satellite, and I love the name as well, Icherechezo. So it's like, it's good to have a little bit of us as Rwandans in this.
Somewhere up in the skies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Charles?
Same. I mean, looking forward to what that satellite will bring in terms of internet connectivity and the business opportunities that come with that. It's going rural. You can imagine what's going to come if you're selling bundles, for argument's sake, or whatever internet devices. Or I think very, very excited about that and seeing what it will bring with it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. So before we kick off on this conversation, I'd like to just say that I think a lot of us on The Square are entrepreneurs. Personally, I wish I had this conversation before I embarked on this journey to learn some things before I did. So my first question is to both of you and to my fellow resident panelists, and it's to do with SMEs in Rwanda and the short life cycles. And, it's been said that entrepreneurship, mostly young people are excited about it because people are excited to, be their own boss, so to speak, but don't really adequately prepare for this particular journey. And I'd just like to quote official figures, show that from 2008 to 2018, around 15% of small businesses collapsed, and this was linked to poor planning and execution of business plans. So in both your experiences, and I'll start with you, Grace, what are some of the common causes for these short life cycles of startups? And, basically, what key elements should young entrepreneurs look out for?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. I think as far as startups are concerned, many startups engage in a piloting phase. People are testing the market. They have some great ideas or ideas they think are going to work, but then they're not very sure. A couple of things factor into that is primarily the fact that we don't have enough data about the market, and it's kind of costly to be able to do market research. So people will test, and when they test, sometimes they get it right, other times they get it wrong. And I think we also have to come to terms with the fact that failure of a startup could mean that the next startup that the entrepreneur starts actually succeeds, because then they have a lot more maturity, they're able to structure their businesses better in terms of cost, and they're able to position themselves better in terms of understanding the market and product market fit. So I think that's where, that would be my position in terms of why some of the startups are failing at very early stages.
The lack of market research is something that is where you think most of them fail. People just more or less go into it without knowledge of what their product really is in the market.
Yeah, I think we should appreciate that right now the private sector is very open, so people can enter the market at very low cost. And given that, it means people are able to engage with new products, new ideas, and that's very positive. The reason why people may not sustain their businesses may be because they're not competitive in their positioning. It may be because of the way they structure their businesses, or they didn't plan enough for financing, or they position the business not in the right way in terms of who can buy for them, at what cost, etc.
What do you mean by competitive? Can you just break that down a bit?
Yeah. So when we talk about markets, markets are usually made up of different players. They're value chains, and you'll have people working through the marketplace. You'll have customers, etc. When customers are thinking about who they buy from, they'll look at a couple of things. They'll look at the quality of the product, they'll look at the price of the product, and they will prioritize amongst their needs. So competitiveness will depend on whether your price is competitive to your competition, whether your product is competitive, and whether it's well positioned for the market. Yeah.
Isaac, would you want to weigh in on this?
Well, yeah, I think that there are so many mitigating factors that can contribute to potential failure, including everything Grace has already mentioned. But yes, I think that one of many other factors could be access to finance, which can be a problem depending on the entrepreneur in question, the product positioning, the market available to an entrepreneur when they get started. Most of us, when we start I am a proud business owner, and I am also proud of my business failures. I myself have, I believe, I think I'm on 6 now.
6 successes or 6?
No, 5 failures.
Interesting.
So I also believe, just like Grace alluded to earlier, is that failure is part of the process. It's part of the learning curve. I like to smile around with people that I talk to about entrepreneurship, that these are school fees. This is part of the experience of learning how to run a business better by going through the experience of failing. So it's not necessarily dark clouds all around.
So I think I wanna kind of put this conversation into context a bit. You know, we're doing what we normally do when we talk about entrepreneurship. We create entrepreneurship as this distant cloud, which we're talking about, and it doesn't actually. We're not tying it down to the realities on the ground in relation to the fact that these entrepreneurs are probably breadwinners in their homes. These are actual people who are trying to earn a living, taking care of a family. These people are probably employing a certain number of people. When you look at even the statistics around the percentage of SMEs in our economy, that's one. The size of our informal sector, and you realize Rwanda is not an isolated case, right? Sub-Saharan Africa in general, I think they said the statistic goes that 66% of Africa's labor force is employed in the informal sector. So you're talking of over half of our population as a continent is in the informal sector. Now, when you come down to the question of, okay, why do these businesses fail? I think actually the question is not even why do they fail, but the question is why don't they last? You know, you mentioned an official statistic of 15%, but I think it's greater actually. There's a statistic
in the last 10 years in Rwanda, you think it's greater than
I wouldn't
15%?
say 10. I wouldn't say 10 years. What I would say is that if you were to go to the registrar's office, and I've said this statistic before, and it comes from a very credible source, anyone can go. They say that 80% of the businesses that are registered with the registrar's office are under 2 years. 2 years old. And that's just a simple telling of how long the life cycle is of some of these businesses that people go and register. And I'm talking of the formal sector, beyond what we talk about in the informal sector. Now, for me, the logic is very simple. When we have this conversation, we need to take into context that, look, these are people's lives. What actually happens on the ground? Why do these people actually fail? When somebody wakes up in the morning and starts out with, let's say, 50K in capital investment, by the time they hit year 2, let's say the business was growing, but at some point the business all of a sudden starts to fail or doesn't start to work out well. That's what I'm trying to say we need to put into context. That it's the same reason when we talk about entrepreneurship, it almost seems romanticized. It's the same way we also have to talk about it in the context of what does this actually mean on the ground for actual people's lives.
Can you answer your question? Just very quickly, can you answer your question? Why then?
No, I think that there is an array of factors, but
But briefly, if you can just summarize.
Okay.
Your answer to your question.
I would say that one of the biggest challenges, especially in an economy as small as ours, is and I don't want to put in all the blame because I'm just giving one example, which I think is a major one, is the change in the regulatory environment. It's a huge one. You find today somebody has invested some money, they go and start selling second-hand clothes, as an example. Tomorrow there's a regulation that's passed that you can't do it anymore. And for whatever reason, and sometimes it's even justified, but what happens to that actual person in that business? It fails. Then you see the next day, somebody goes and sets up in a marketplace. So for example, they decide to now become part of the formal, semi-formal economy. And the next day, some regulation is passed around either the size of the shops or the pricing or this, and the person is priced out of business.
So our environment, the regulatory environment, it fluctuates a lot.
It fluctuates and it's very volatile, and it's very hard for business owners to plan. And I'm not talking of sophisticated planning methods. I'm talking of somebody saying, okay, I'm going to put in my 100,000 francs or my 50,000 francs today, and businesses, at least the environment in which I'm doing business, is going to be stable for the next 6 months for me to be able to see a profit. In Rwanda, it's not, at least for the most part, what I've seen is that it's not as easy as that. It's not as black and white as that. Yeah.
Charles?
Yeah, I want to talk about patience, perseverance in relation to what Grace said around how entrepreneurs go into businesses, open up businesses without knowing what is expected of them. Pretty much like the old adage of going into a deep end of a swimming pool with both of your feet. In 2008, I sit back and I say, I think I have had enough of this bank that I've been working for. Let me go and do my own thing. Now, I like to listen to Isaac on radio, and he likes talking about side hustles. So I was in a bank, and I had a side hustle of I was an estate agent. Now I said, okay, fine. I weighed after about a year of doing it. And I saw actually my side hustle was earning me 3-4 times what my salary was earning me. So, I mean, the choice was clear. I went to concentrate on my side hustle. Now, 6 months into the side hustle, I did not realize that I was actually using a lot of my employment resources to feed into my side hustle. Now, all of a sudden, my expenses have shot up. I need an office, I need a desk, I need fuel, I need rent, I need internet, and so on and so forth. And again, it's just one of those things where you're in a situation where unless you try and fail, you will not know that you actually made a mistake. And of course, around that time, I was like, okay, hang on a second. Is this when I reconsider going back into employment? Or should I hang in there and probably get my cost structure right? But now at least I have learned that it is important to buy airtime. Now I have learned that it is important that there is somebody else who is not, that it is now your turn to pay your own fuel, and so on and so forth. So the fear of the unknown and the lack of maturity, but more importantly, perseverance is one of the reasons I think, yes.
I like what Charles and Isaac are, reiterating on this show, the fact that failure is a necessity in the entrepreneurship journey. Failure is a necessity if you're going to learn what to do, learn what not to do. And I don't think we talk a lot about failure when we talk about entrepreneurship. And a frame, like you said, it's a rosy picture we paint and romantic picture that we paint without really talking about the hard stuff. On this note, I would like us to just delve a bit into youth in Rwanda and focus in terms of youth and agribusiness, business in agriculture. And 98% of businesses in this country are SMEs. We all know that. And they account for 41% of all private sector employment. But going to agriculture, figures show that 85% of the country's industries are mainly in the agricultural sector. So logic follows that, based on these numbers and in trying to reduce employment issues, youth should kind of be facilitated into agribusinesses. Is there a way we can make agriculture sexy, so to speak, for young people. You know, there's this mindset of going into fields and lots of manual labor that doesn't correspond to returns on investment. But evidence shows that this is something that will actually lurch Rwanda in terms of unemployment. It will also, you know, give a boost to job creation. So my question is, based on your experience, what is being done by government or also by other private sector entities to facilitate young people in this country in agribusiness?
Happy to start on that question. Yes, we are at the ministry. We are very excited about getting to work with young people who are interested in entrepreneurship, particularly because it's a clear track when you think about how young people will engage the market. It's not always through a job they get. It's also through them starting their own businesses. And indeed, agriculture is one sector which is quite wide in terms of opportunities. When we talk about agriculture production, there are opportunities for us to improve productivity and yield. There are also opportunities to, in the same line, mechanize, you know, specialize in certain products and ensure that we are exporting those products and getting higher value. Both for the investors, the farmers themselves. They're also upper the chain and also on the other side of the chain, the value chain, opportunities to process agricultural produce and also opportunities to distribute. And also opportunities to ensure that those who are doing production are getting the inputs they need. They're able to get whatever supplies they need. They're able to get technology solutions such as irrigation solutions and whatever else they need to be able to succeed. So we're definitely working with youth in agriculture. And there's a particular effort that's been established between the Ministry of Youth and the Ministry of Agriculture to support young people who are engaging in agriculture sector throughout the value chain. And it's through an organization called Rwandan Youth in Agriculture Forum, RIAF in short. Yes. I think many of you have heard it in different
RIAF, yeah. And they're doing quite commendable work. They are. It was a student-led initiative that was founded at the University of Rwanda, and eventually we realized how much potential they have, because they bring together all the people who've studied agriculture as a profession and who are looking for ways to get financing, enter the market, access new markets in terms of export. And definitely they have become the platform through which we're able to identify what needs they have and help them access financing. In addition to that, there are a lot of they're financing products that are tailored to young people who are engaging in agriculture. They are able to access the BDF services and get that funding that they need to be able to invest into their businesses. So one of the things that we've done with RIAF is ensure that the young people who are trying to process products, we've seen a couple emerge over the years. Some who are processing things like honey, others who were making wine very traditionally. And then we're given a platform through a program we call Youth Connect that gives visibility to young innovators and gives them the opportunity to pitch their products to the market and then get opportunities for financing. And we've seen the private sector really rally around that and mobilize, say, interest-free loans that are accessible to these young people and allow them to go from traditional production to a little bit more mechanized and also get them to access markets. So we've seen a lot of growth there. We'd love to see more. We want to see a lot more champions. One of recently a young person was... Are you going to talk about the chili?
Yes, was on the BBC for, really succeeding at his investment in Chile. He had recently gotten an opportunity to export in large quantity his products. And one of the ways that he had accessed that opportunity particularly was through such networks where they come together and they're able to have a voice. They get platforms when our president is engaging other markets and saying, we have products that we can bring to your market. He is also taking them with him.
This is Gashora Farms, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And his name is Diodone?
Diego,
sorry.
yes. Diego Twahirwa.
Of the chili products. It's a very inspiring story.
Yeah, Dana, if I may, is there money in agriculture? Definitely yes. Would I touch agriculture? Definitely no.
You as Charles?
Yes,
okay.
yes, and I'll give you my reasons.
All right.
I want to dwell on the point that Ephraim said around unpredictability and the sudden change of policies and what. So you want to do a soya plant, you want to do a rice mill, you want to do a huge plant that does walls, a factory that does walls made out of wheat and all that stuff. And the government will promise you all these wonders, will mobilize the farmers, they want to do grain that will export. You see, they'll tell you, we'll give you land that you can pay over X number of periods, we'll guarantee you these markets. And once you have done all that investment, the farmers say, no, hang on a second. We have been told that next season we should plant something else. Or the access road to that particular area is not a priority in the Mihigo of that district, and it delays. Or the power that you're being provided for your meal or whatever is not enough. Or that it comes to a point of actually production, I mean your post-production, and you started exporting, and then the department in charge of titles saying, no, we've changed our mind, we should not give people with industries in the special economic zone freehold titles, we should give them leases. So all that unpredictability would make me individually, because I've seen what has happened to other entrepreneurs in the agriculture sector, think twice. It even gets mad, it becomes worse, and Grace was talking about the value chain. We talk about how you will hardly find one single businessman who says, apart from maybe airtime sellers, who say we are paid on time. I have a friend who was running a crisps factory. I think in other markets they call them potato chips. The guy closed just because of all the supermarkets, with no exception. None of them could pay him on time. So the whole unpredictability, of course, a bulk of it is the responsibility of government and sorting out itself in terms of aligning the promises they give to entrepreneurs. But a bit of it is also thus the private sector that we need to support one another a little bit more.
Thanks, Charles. I want to give some time to Grace, because she was bursting with a lot of things to say while you were giving your perspective.
Yeah, yes. I think I would like to make a comment. Certainly there are challenges in the agricultural sector, and there are opportunities to improve the way services are delivered. Because when you talk about government engaging farmers and supporting them and encouraging them to produce certain produce, it's also in form of service, and ensuring that that service is sustained throughout as promised. I think there are opportunities to improve, and there have been challenges in the past. But one of the things that platforms like RIAF has been really offering entrepreneurs is the opportunity to negotiate those terms and actually understand how to maneuver the system, understand how to work around. The other thing is that creation of jobs has become a priority across all sectors, even in local government. So the local government is very interested in seeing entrepreneurs who are trying to invest in their sectors, creating new jobs, and helping create value for their economy. There's room to improve, but definitely the will is there. And I think entrepreneurs who are working in the agriculture sector need to connect with everyone to ensure that no one oversees their interests, without knowing that they're actually, causing them to
hurting businesses.
Yeah, hurting their business.
I think so. I'm a youth entrepreneur in the agriculture value chain, and it's interesting to hear this conversation because I'm like, okay, maybe there's something I missed and I've not. So
I have of RIAF. I think that's the problem.
No, actually, interesting enough. Let me even speak on that behalf if I can. The challenge I think that we face, and I mentioned this to you earlier before we started the show, and I'll try to put it in the most politically correct way. There is a need to engage, right? And the engagement happens. But there's a certain level of seriousness that's attached to the engagement, So when RIAF organizes, recently we had the Young CEO Forum where they engaged, and it was in the news, where the Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs under PSF, in partnership with the Ministry of Youth and all the other various stakeholders, organized this event. Now, if we're to call all the people who raised issues and we say, what happened, what was the follow-through in relation to your issue around tax, in relation to the incentives around water infrastructure investment, there were a bunch of things listed. Everybody would tell you that not much was done. Or at least you'll see a few cases where things were sorted out. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because we have to also be realistic, right? Not all the problems will be solved. But now the question that comes in is how we prioritize those problems. Unfortunately, and I'll call a spade, youth entrepreneurship issues get prioritized last. And I say this in the sense that
below what?
For example, if I have an issue, right? I'm in the agricultural value chain, and I say my problem is X. Then there's another businessman older than me, more established, probably has a much bigger business, and has been doing this for much longer than I have.
And he pays more taxes.
And he pays more taxes. What ends up happening? No. I'm coming to my point, and I'm explaining this, and that's why I want to drive a point home. Is that on the surface it looks like he's a more valuable contributor to society. So what happens is that the way government sees it is that they go and say, oh, let's prioritize his problem over the young entrepreneur. But now, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, and we've just given the statistics about the percentage of SMEs in our economy, the percentage of jobs that are being held by this, you actually realize that there's an inverse where we have to move away from this understanding of big is always better to actually understanding where is the actual value and how do we ascribe that in terms of how we prioritize the issues that are brought forward. And I'm saying this purely out of desire to see something different, because sometimes you can see a situation where it is purely a disservice to society at large, but people only prioritize it because when they look at the face value of things, it looks like this is the best way to go, but but it doesn't match the data.
So you're basically saying youth prioritization in terms of entrepreneurship.
I'm not saying blank.
Be given.
I'm not saying it should be blank. I said we should look at the data.
Okay.
When we make these decisions, when people bring issues forward and we have to weigh things on a scale, we should look at the data.
Very quickly before we go to the next question, what is your take on agribusiness?
Well, I think that...
And youth in Rwanda.
Yeah, well, first of all, before going to specifically agribusiness and youth in Rwanda, I think that initiatives like Grace brought up Youth Connect, I think initiatives like that are critical, and they need to be supported more, both private and publicly, because one of the major contributors to, or one of the most significant contributors to the GDP is a healthy SME environment and a growing number of young people invested in new business. But in order for us to have a thriving in economy, not just Rwanda, but in order to have a thriving entrepreneurial spirit, we need to continue to support the upskilling of our young people when it comes to starting off a business, whether it's understanding their market, whether it's collecting data, whether it's having interpersonal and intrapersonal skills, being able to self-regulate and work in a collective in order to meet goals. I think these are very, very important. Of course, like was brought up earlier, things like financial literacy. These are all collective, highly necessary skills that our young people need to acquire in order for them to be successful in any sector as far as starting up a business.
Thanks. And we'll get to financial literacy later on, because I know this is your forte. In terms of your businesses, you spend a lot of time through your company Success Through Perspective, teaching young people about financial literacy and the power of knowing your finances and setting up your business. The last question to the panel is basically really a bit more general, and it's to do with attitude, it's to do with mindset. And Charles, you brought it up, the perseverance and patience. And it's really something I want to ask, and this is, it really goes to the whole fostering a culture of entrepreneurship. I want to know how you describe entrepreneurs in Rwanda. You know, sometimes people talk about, you know, they go to countries like Nigeria, they go to countries like, you know, around the region, and they just say, young people, they are hungrier, they work harder, they work smarter. You've been working with young people, young entrepreneurs a lot. What are some of the mindset shifts we need, maybe, as a nation of young people in terms of entrepreneurship? You know, what is the culture of entrepreneurship amongst people, and what can we do? What can young people do to drive it forward?
I think, first of all, having worked in the entrepreneurship sector for a while, I am very pleased to see how there's been a change in mindset around entrepreneurship. People take a lot of pride today in being entrepreneurs, self-starters, especially the young people. And I know it's not always easy, but that's a very important step in terms of, you know, they want to go out there, they want to engage, they want to start something of their own. They have limited access to information, or they have limited information on what to expect, but they're willing to test that. And I think that's an important characteristic of entrepreneurship. The other thing is entrepreneurs are very creative. They're creative. Ephraim mentioned a couple of challenges. And I think one of the things that characterize entrepreneurs is their resilience and their creativity. You know, Ephraim has been an entrepreneur for quite a while now.
I think, Ephraim, since you're 18?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah.
And they're very good at finding solutions even amidst challenges, amidst the difficulties of, let's say, a few years ago, it was very difficult for someone who's a startup, even when they've proven that they have something to sell, to get financing in the traditional banks. Things have evolved now, but they were quite creative at working around that. They negotiated, they made it work. The other thing is they're curious. Entrepreneurs are usually very curious people. When they walk into a place, they're not just satisfied by what they see. They'll look at the environment and think, how is that made? You know, how do they end up making coffee? How much does it cost? What's the profit that this person is making?
These are entrepreneurs in Rwanda that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm talking about what entrepreneurship is.
In Rwanda.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing that characterizes entrepreneurs, and I think where I think we can strengthen is really, in Rwanda particularly, would be in their ability to connect with our society's realities. Because entrepreneurship cannot be sustained if what you're bringing to the market is not relevant. You have to be able to understand who you're serving, what they need, what are their most pressing needs. And for that, you really have to understand your people. What do they need? What do they want to pay for? And what will bring them the most value? What can help you, you know, come up with a business that can be scaled? So when we talk about entrepreneurs in Rwanda particularly, I see the young men and women who are working hard. Sometimes they don't start off with what they want, but they have dreams. They have really big dreams. They work really hard. They're the motorists of taxis who we see frequently, who are, besides driving those motors, are also trying to make it through school, are also trying to, you know, start up a different business on the side. They're the young people who we're seeing producing, you know, different products out of agricultural produce, trying to see how they can add value amidst the challenge, some of the challenges that Ephraim mentioned. And they're starting off really small with limited access to financing, but then they're making it work. So I would say we have a lot to celebrate in what we're seeing in entrepreneurship, and a lot more to cultivate as well in terms of what can really make these entrepreneurs succeed. And thanks to programs like the Youth Connect, there are opportunities for these young people to get visibility, to get access to services, and really hone their skills in terms of understanding what business will work, and also accessing markets.
Sure.
Isaac, sorry, just very quickly, what's your take on? I'll get to you later, but how do you think our entrepreneurs fare in Rwanda in terms of mindset and attitude?
Well, I do agree that having also participated in a number of entrepreneurial competitions and done some work as well in this space in terms of training, I think that we do see a lot of resilience in our young entrepreneurs. But what I'd like to see more of this is anecdotal, of course, it's my experience, it's not statistical in any way, but I would very much like to see more young people working together on their entrepreneurial ventures. I have seen a lot of young people.
You mean a sense of collaboration?
A very strong sense of collaboration. And we kind of have I have seen a bit of a me against the world type of attitude when it comes to young people in business. The idea that if I share my business concept, if I talk to multiple different people and get feedback, first of all, I might not be receptive to criticism on my business venture, my business concept, especially in early days. And I might not be willing to move a little bit to accommodate for the marketplace that I wish to serve. And of course, these are very large hurdles to success if we're not able or not willing to adjust and course correct when it comes to the design of our product and service or approach to the marketplace. But even more so, synergy is an extremely important function of success. And if our young people or if our entrepreneurs in general aren't taking the time to work together, to bring their ideas together and cook up something new, something robust, something comprehensive, then we end up with a lot of people with similar concepts rotating around one relatively small marketplace and not enough opportunity to problem solve and address the market as it needs to, or also plan for their future as they need to. So I think that's a gap that needs to be addressed.
I really like your point on collaboration and synergy. Ephraim and Charles, very quickly before we go to a social media.
Well, just first of all, on a lighter note, when Grace was one of the reasons why I wanted to interrupt Grace, she got very clear directions from her minister before she came on the show. dominate.
Charles, of course, the show could not end. It could not end with Charlie coming through as usual.
But
where is the tea?
I want to give credit where it's due. Honestly speaking, there has been a mindset change over the years. Gone are the days when you could not see a graduate riding a motor, as Grace was saying, or a graduate who is a waitress in a restaurant. Gone are those days. So today there's a huge mindset change. But I want to say something around what is lacking that needs to be taken to another level in terms of that mindset, and that's ambition. And I'll give an example of, say, the creative industry. Artists and the others. I want to see a situation where the showbiz magazines here or the other online platforms that are there will not praise a guy because he has bought a Mercedes-Benz, and the guy will also swell because he has 2 albums to his name and a Mercedes-Benz. He should aim for a Jaguar after that Mercedes-Benz. So I still feel that there isn't enough hunger amongst our youth entrepreneurs that they set the bar so low in terms of success, and that's something that needs significant change. Yes.
Absolutely. Can we go to a social media feed? Ephraim, or is there something you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
We can go to social media.
All right. So social media feed, we have a tweet coming in, and this is from Alex Rukundo Mercy. And Alex Rukundo Mercy says that the world of business is changing fast with changes in customers' preferences, which makes it hard for youth entrepreneurs. SMEs fail within the first 18 months because of running out of cash, despite a desire for quick cash, lack of mentorship, and lack of clear and unique value proposition. Before we go to our next tweet, I would like to hear from you just very briefly on Mercy's.
I think it's genuine hunger for quick success.
Quick results,
yes,
right?
Yes, and that is directly related to what we started off by saying, around perseverance. You know, you want to deal quickly, and you know, you don't see the bigger picture, and you lose out. Yeah.
Our next tweet is from Tuyishimire Jacques, and he says that entrepreneurship should start at home earlier. Mwana wanje, yiga kugira ngo nurangiza kaminuza uzakore ube mukire. Basically, this is saying, you know, finish university quickly so you can, you know, work and get rich. And Jacques says that this parenting style makes the majority of the youth grow hoping to be entrepreneurs lately. Entrepreneurship should start with an entrepreneurial parenting. I think that's a fantastic tweet.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and I think also it's a mindset in parents that we need to change. Most parents, I know when I started on my journey of entrepreneurship and left employment, until just recently, I had uncles, I had my aunts, I had my parents. They would keep on sliding me information. There's a big job in this institution. Why don't you apply for it? There's a big job here. And I'm sure you've gone through the same thing. Until it was clear to my family members that I am here to stick this out, you know. So I think that tweet on parenting.
Yeah, we have, actually all of us have a common friend who's in the fashion business.
Yes.
The story goes of how he finished his first degree, then he wanted to go fashion. The parents said, no. They paid for him. He went to do his postgraduate.
Not in fashion.
Totally different, what the parents wanted him to do.
Of course.
So he got his degree, gave it to the parents, says, there's your degree. Let me go and design clothes. And he's made it in life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Our next tweet is from Jonas. I know Jonas is a previous guest here. And Jonas works at the Ministry of Minicom, basically, Ministry of Trade. And Jonas's tweet says that the upcoming entrepreneurial policy will seek to empower youth entrepreneurship, improving access to finance for entrepreneurs, skills development, support to innovation and technology, as well as improving industry networks and business support services. So, I mean, Ephraim, this goes to show you that government...
Like as government, he must be a civil servant.
Yeah, he was actually on the square before. No, but it shows
certain
you that,
lingua that you can't miss.
No, but it shows that government is still...
It means well.
It means well. Government is listening to entrepreneurship, it's listening to youth, and so forth and so on. Our last tweet for this evening, it's still from Jonas, and I think this is part 2 of his tweet. And he tells us, next time, kindly talk about ICT achievement and challenges related. This is one of the topics that is still untapped with the Square. Oh, okay. Internet issues, connectivity in buses, public places in schools, hospitals, etc., internet prices. So this is basically something that we'll take under advisement, I think, to talk about ICT entrepreneurship in the country. We are coming to the end of the show. And there's some tweets where some people have been asking us that Charles and Ephraim, you're spot on in terms of trends and life cycles of SMEs. And some of our tweets were asking us to explain further. But of course, we've run out of time. I think we should definitely have part 2 of this conversation on the show, where Ephraim and Charles, you'll even elaborate a bit further on the life cycles of SMEs. I would like us to just give closing remarks, and I'll start with our guests. Moving forward to you, Charles. On the entrepreneurship amongst young people in Rwanda.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, these 3 tweets have really been on point. One thing I would like to end on is, Charles mentioned a little bit about passion.
Yes.
I think that's the fuel in the fire for anyone who's going to succeed on the entrepreneurial journey. If they're passionate about fashion, if they're passionate about whatever it is they're entering into, that's what's going to be the marker, the difference maker. And I think that we all need to invest in the things that we're passionate about.
Mine will be to encourage entrepreneurs, because it's a journey that really needs encouragement. But they should know
it can also be quite a lonely journey. So
can be.
You're right about the encouragement.
They need to know that we're really counting on them to be the ones who are innovators, who are creating those services that didn't previously exist on the market, and who are really going to grow such businesses, so that those are businesses they pass on to the next generation, businesses that they export to other countries as well. And we're counting on them to stay the course, despite the challenges, despite the failures, keep growing, and very importantly, understand their market. Understand understand the market, make sure that you're connected, because the more connected you are, the more you have a voice, the more you can air what your challenges are, and these platforms are being created. We're trying our best to be able to lend a listening ear and take into action what these challenges are. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. Ephraim?
Yeah, I think for me, closing remarks would be.
I know there are many.
No, I think one, you give credit where credit is due. There's been a lot of work that has gone into it. I think the desire moving forward from now is we put our money where our mouth is, and we shift away from this. I call these consultative meetings photo shoots. That's my only link.
Photo opportunities.
The politicians take pictures with the entrepreneurs take pictures with the politicians,
Yes.
and everybody's happy. But I'm like, we need to also at least go a little bit further, and we start to see some concrete action coming out of these things, at least longer lasting action. And then we've talked about this on the square around institutional coordination. We need our institutions to communicate with one another, because what is benefiting one institution, tomorrow another institution says, no, we don't want this, and it affects both institutions and the entrepreneurs as well. So I think these are just things that I would love to see, hopefully in the entrepreneurship policy. And young people will benefit from it as well.
Charles?
Photo opportunities, I just want to jump on that and give it a different twist. If you asked Ephraim how many hours to months, to days to months he spends in such PR forums at the expense of his business, and you talk to all those other Ephraims, when government is not dragging these people to go on a plane to go there, spend 3 days moderating a session, asking them to go to this retreat and all that stuff, they're sucking all their energy, and even worse still, sometimes they appoint them to government positions at the expense of their businesses. So my specific request is, let government think twice about killing these entrepreneurs. They need to spend more time in their businesses learning from their past mistakes. Thank you.
That's in true Charles fashion, calling a spade a spade. For me, I think my perspective is that this is something I really try and apply myself. It's the 10,000-hour rule. I'm sure you've heard about it. To be really good at something, you need to have cultivated finesse around it. So the 10,000 hours means it's being good at something to the possibility of marketing it, whether it's being a writer, whether it's being an entrepreneur. So I think some entrepreneurs need to really, like you said, understand their market, but really understand their products and be good at it. So I think professionalism and high quality is needed in entrepreneurship, sticking to the 10,000-hour rule. So just a recap of this evening is that some of the challenges you've mentioned are a fluctuating regulatory environment. It doesn't help entrepreneurs. 1 minute you're able to sell this, 1 minute you're able to sell something in a particular space, and that changes in less than a year. So to the regulators and policymakers listening, I hope that's something we can see even out and be a bit more stable for our entrepreneurs. You also mentioned, I think everyone agrees that there's better facilitation than a couple of years back for entrepreneurs by government and other facilities, whether it's BDF, whether it's Youth Connect to a ministry. For sure, we're seeing a bit more entrepreneurs in the market space today than, say, 5 years ago. And last of all, I really liked your points on young entrepreneurs need to collaborate. Synergy is very important. There's no fear of your light being dimmed by someone else. If anything, it adds value to the product. So thank you very much, Charles, Ephraim, Grace, and to the ministry. Thank you. Isaac, on behalf of the organization, Service Through Perspective. Success through perspective. Right, I really like that. Need to get used to saying it. Thank you for honoring our invitation. And please keep the conversation going on our Twitter feed using hashtag #TheSquareRW. This is a conversation I think we're going to have again. Very many people have been excited about youth and entrepreneurship going hand in hand on the Square. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening and see you again at this time next week. Thank you.